Our topic is about the social learning approach, Albert Bandura's modeling theory. The topics are the life of Bandura, modeling the basis of observational learning, and the process of observational learning to be discussed by Angelica Gonzales, self-reinforcement and self-efficacy, developmental stages of self-efficacy, and behavior modification to be discussed by Jezreel Geron, questions about human nature, assessment in Bandura's theory, research on Bandura's theory, and reflections on Bandura's theory to be discussed by Rosemary Manalo. Albert Bandura was born on December 4, 1925 in Alberta, Canada. His parents were immigrants from Poland who emphasized the value of education. He went to the University of British Columbia in Vancouver and took a course in psychology. Nag-enroll siya sa psychology hindi dahil interesado siya dito kundi dahil para sa kanya, convenient ang time ng course na ito. Ngunit katagalan, he found it fascinating. He went to earn his PhD in 1952 from the University of Iowa. He joined the faculty of Stanford University where he began his new approach to psychology. Bandura included human factor without completely disagreeing with Skinner. He is the originator of social cognitive theory known for his modeling study on aggression, Bobo doll experiment, which demonstrated that children learn behaviors through observation of adults. He then died on July 26, 2021 because of congestive heart failure. Ayon kay Bandura, ang tao ay natututo hindi lamang dahil sa kanyang kapaligiran at sa kanyang pansariling paniniwala, kundi pati na din sa tinatawag niyang modeling o pag-obserba sa ibang tao. He stressed that we learn from our mistakes but we can also learn by other people's mistakes because we saw the consequences. Albert Bandura's social learning theory helps us to know how people learn. He proposed that people can also learn by observing other people that he called observational learning. Behaviorists believe that learning is derived from the interaction with the environment, but Bandura believed that we can also learn by observing the people around us. Ang focus ng observational learning niya ay paano natututo ang tao sa pamamagitan ng pag-observe at paggaya sa behavior ng mga ito. Models of observational learning includes live model, which requires an individual person demonstrating or performing an action or behavior. Verbal instructional model includes behavioral description and explanation. Symbolic model involves real or fictional character portraying behavior in book, film, or television program. Bandura's demonstration of modeling involves the Bobo doll, an inflatable plastic figure about 4 feet tall. It is a balloon-like doll with heavy bottom part so when it is hit, it will bounce back. A number of children were tested in one room with an adult, a number of toys, and a Bobo doll. The experimental group witnessed the adult was aggressive towards the doll. Nakita nila na sinisipa at hinahagis ang doll. Matapos nilang makita ang pangyayari, sila ay dinala sa loob ng isang kwarto na may laruan at Bobo doll. Children who witnessed aggressive behavior by adults demonstrated aggressive behavior towards the doll. They showed their frustration by kicking, shouting, throwing the doll, and some even pointed a toy gun to it and punched it with a mallet. While the control group of children who had not seen the model attack the Bobo doll didn't show any kind of aggressive behavior towards the doll. This demonstrated that children can learn behaviors through observation of adults. Makikita natin sa itaas na bahagi ng larawan ang live model at sa ibaba nito ang mga bata na inoobserbahan gamit ang Bobo doll. Ngayon naman, panoodin natin ang maikling clip na ito. Ito ay ang aktwal na footage sa ginawang experiment ni Bandura noong 1961.
My initial research on observational learning centered on the social modeling of aggression. In our experiment, preschool children observed an adult model beat up an inflated Bobo doll in novel ways. She pummeled it with a mallet, flung it in the air, kicked it repeatedly, and threw it down and beat it. And these novel acts were embellished with hostile remarks. The children were then left in the playroom that had a variety of toys. Now, the children who had observed the aggressive modeling adopted much of it. They even invented new ways for attacking the doll. Children who had not observed the adult model were less aggressive and never hit the Bobo doll in the novel ways that were modeled. The children who had been exposed to the aggressive modeling showed an increased attraction to guns, even though the adult model never used them. At the time we did this research, it was widely believed that seeing others venting aggression would drain away the viewer's aggressive drive. As you can see, exposure to modeled aggression is hardly cathartic.
Other modeling studies. Bandura compared the behavior of parents of two groups of children. The groups are divided into two. One is the children who displayed aggressive behavior and the other is the inhibited ones. According to Bandura's theory, the children's behavior should reflect their parents' behavior. The research showed that the parents of the inhibited children were inhibited and the parents of the aggressive children were aggressive. Disinhibition. It is when a person does something that they normally wouldn't. Research has shown that the behaviors of a person usually inhibits may be performed under the influence of a model, and this phenomenon is called disinhibition. Trolling. Posting comments online following the example or model of others. This can lead to an online form of disinhibition known as trolling or the posting of inflammatory, derogatory, or hateful messages about a person or a group. The effects of society's models. Bandura concluded that much of our behavior is learned by imitating the behavior of other people. Beginning with parents as models, we learn their language and become socialized by the culture's custom and acceptable behaviors. To simply explain this, what we see is what we become. Kung ano ang nakikita natin, yun ang ginagaya natin at naa-adapt natin yun hanggang sa maging behavior na natin. Characteristics of the modeling situation. Bandura investigated 3 factors found to influence modeling, which includes the characteristics of the models, the characteristics of the observer, and the reward consequences associated with the behaviors. The characteristics of the models. Models who are like us. We may be more influenced by someone who appears to be similar to us than by someone who differs from us. In the laboratory, Bandura found that the extent of the modeling decreased as the similarity between the model and the subject decreased. The children showed greater imitation of a live model than an animated character. Age and sex of models. We are more likely to be model our behavior after a person of the same sex and age. Status of models. Status and prestige are also important factors. For example, television commercials make effective use of celebrities who claim to use a particular product. The expectation is that the consumers will imitate their behavior and buy the advertised product. Size and weight of models. The size and weight of a model can also influence behavior. A study of the 9th and 10th grade students in Canada found that those who attended a school where the older students tended to be overweight, even obese, gained more weight than students who attended a school where the older students were not overweight. The characteristics of the observers. Age of observers. In infancy, modeling is limited to immediate imitation. Infants have not yet developed the cognitive capacities. It is necessary for the model behavior to be repeated several times after the infant's initial attempt to duplicate it. The behaviors we find reinforcing and thus choose to imitate will change with age. Younger children are reinforced primarily by physical stimuli such as food, affection, or punishment. Older children associate positive physical reinforcers with signs of approval from significant models and unpleasant reinforcers with signs of disapproval. Attributes of the observers. A person who has been reinforced for imitating a behavior, for example, a child rewarded for behaving like an older sibling, is more susceptible to the influence of models than a child who has not been so reinforced. The reward consequences associated with the behaviors. In a Bobo doll study, some of the children watched as the model who hit the Bobo doll was given praise and a soda and a candy. Another group of children saw the model receive verbal and physical punishment for the same aggressive behavior. The children who observed the punishment displayed significantly less aggression towards the Bobo doll than did the children who saw the model being reinforced. Bandura also pointed out that although reinforcement can facilitate learning, reinforcement is not always required for learning to occur. For example, loud sounds, bright lights, and exciting videos may capture our interest even though we may not have been received any reinforcement for paying attention to them. Attentional processes. Observational learning or modeling will not occur unless the subject pays attention to the model. The more closely we pay attention to a model's behavior, the more likely we are to imitate it. Factors such as age, status, sex, and similarity help determine how closely a subject attends to the model. Retention processes. We must be able to remember significant aspects of the model's behavior in order to repeat it later. For this, we use our cognitive processes to form mental images and verbal description of the model's behavior. Production processes. Translating imaginal and verbal symbolic representations into overt behavior requires the production processes, described more simply as practice. Consider learning how to ride a bicycle. We learn fundamental motions from watching a model ride it. Alam natin kung ano ang purpose ng pedal dahil nakikita natin ang model kung paano niya iyon ginagamit para magbike. Ngunit, hindi natin alam kung paano iyon gagamitin actually at kapag ginaya natin ito ay hindi pa ganoon kaayos dahil tayo ay under the process of learning pa lamang. Our observations may not have been sufficient to ensure immediate and skilled performance of the actions. Practice of the proper physical movements is needed to produce the smooth performance of the behavior. Incentive and motivational processes. When incentives are available, observation is more quickly translated into actions. Incentives also influence the attentional and retention processes. We may not pay as much attention without an incentive to do so, and when less attention is paid, there is less to retain.